Success traits. Today is the first day of a new class that we will be doing all year long called Success Traits. In this class, we're going to focus on the qualities and the characteristics that make you successful. Today, we're going to be tackling accountability. Accountability is knowing that you responsible for your own actions. Accountability means that whatever you do, you know is going to be a consequence, either positive or negative, but regardless of that consequence, you're ready to deal with it. It ain't a successful person out there that don't hold themselves accountable. We all hold ourselves accountable at some point or sometime. It's easier to show the accountability when it's something positive, somebody giving you a pat on the back, or somebody giving you a praise, or somebody giving you a compliment like, oh, who did this? This is terrific work right here. People love to hold themselves accountable, and they'll raise their hand. I did that. That's me. But today we're going to talk about why accountability is so important, why it makes you successful, and we're going to talk about a couple different ways you can be more accountable, and we're going to explain what being accountable actually brings for you. So number one, nobody likes excuses. Don't nobody want to hear excuses you got. You know, at the end of the day, when we drop the ball or we don't do something, we need to just be up front and say we dropped the ball or we didn't do it. Nobody cares that the dog ate our homework. Nobody cares that we got a flat tire 3 days in a row on our way to work, and that's the reason why we was late. Nobody cares why we didn't get done what we said we was gonna get done. When we making excuses, the only thing we doing is giving ourselves reasons and giving ourselves outs. We just trying to convince ourselves, because we'll never convince that other person that we giving those excuses to about whatever we giving them excuses to about. Because when you explain it, when you keep constantly coming with excuse after excuse after excuse, all it start to turn out to sound like is blah 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 blah. And the person that you telling those excuses to, they don't got time for that, and they don't want to hear it. So do yourself a favor, hold yourself accountable. Don't make excuses, make results. I mean, sometimes things happen where we may have to explain why those things is happening, but we don't have times for the excuses. If you're going to hold yourself accountable, don't make excuses. Number two, when you hold yourself accountable, it builds trust. If you holding yourself accountable, people start to trust you because they know they can count on you. And how do they know they can count on you? Because if you holding yourself accountable, then you're going to deliver every time it's time to deliver. And whoever you working with, or whatever business endeavor you in, or whoever you working with towards the same common goal, once they see you constantly deliver, they gonna begin to trust you. They gonna be like, oh man, he always does what he's supposed to do. He always turn in his assignments on time. He always show up on work to time, or he always put in that extra work to make sure we get things taken care of. So people begin to put their trust in you. They know that you somebody, a man of follow through, and you somebody that they can actually they can believe in, or somebody they can actually put a little trust in. Another way holding yourself accountable build trust. Like when things don't go right, and we still hold ourselves accountable. Sometimes, like earlier when I said don't make excuses, sometimes we gotta hold ourselves accountable when things do not go well. Like I was saying, like when we make mistakes, or we do bad, or we don't give our 100%, or if we do give our 100% and the job's still up to par, sometimes we gotta hold ourselves accountable. Be like, okay, I take that one on the chin. That was me. That was my fault. I'm the reason why that didn't get complete, or I'm the reason why this wasn't successful, or I'm the reason why we didn't make it to that next point. And what does that do? That still builds trust around other people, because the people you working with gonna say, okay, man, I can believe him. He step up even when it's not something favorable in his way. He's still coming forth, and people know you more of a human. You make mistakes, and so they still apt to work with you more and more to trust you. So hold yourself accountable builds trust with whoever you working with and all your peers and whatever business endeavor you got going on. Number three, character. When you hold yourself accountable, it builds your character, because you know your personality, you know your attitude, you know your strengths, and you know your weaknesses. And when you're holding yourself accountable and you know your strengths and you know your weaknesses, then you ain't gonna do certain things. You're gonna stay away from the stuff distracting you, or you're gonna stay away from the stuff that's harming you. You're not gonna go to McDonald's and order 3 Big Macs after you just left the gym. Or you're not gonna go out to the bar the night before you gotta work, because you know sometimes when you drink, you be at work the next day sluggish and you don't perform the same way. You hold yourself accountable. Another thing, how it builds your character, it builds integrity. Integrity is when you doing the right thing just to do the right thing, regardless of who watching or regardless of who's standing over you. And it also builds your character because people know you're a man of your word. If you say you're going to do something, people can believe it. If you say you're going to get this job done by this certain date, then people going to believe it. Or if you say you're going to meet 2 days, you're going to have it done 2 days before the deadline, then you're going to have it 2 days before the deadline because you're holding yourself accountable. So, accountability does a lot when it's building character. Number 4, transparency. When you hold yourself accountable for your actions, then you become a very transparent person. People know who you are. They know where you stand on certain topics, or they know your opinion on certain situations or how you feel about certain things. There's no waffling on your decisions, and there's no going back and forth. And you're not confusing people sending mixed signals, because when you send mixed signals, you're not holding yourself accountable, and people lose respect for you, and it becomes hard to trust. It becomes harder for people to trust in you in that situation. Take for instance, last week, it's been all. If anybody watched sports, they probably heard about the Philadelphia Eagles coach and what he did in the game. Okay, you know how the NFL. Everybody know how the NFL is and how football is, and how they try to win every game regardless of what. In the National Football League, they give it everything they got while they on the field, and they hate losing games. And the coach always tell them before every game, we're going to give it all, we're going to leave it out on the field, and regardless of what, we're going to play to win the game. And everybody watched the game, seeing that the Philadelphia Eagles was in position to win that game. And what did the coach do? The coach pulled the best player they had in the minute they was finna win the game and put a backup player in there, and which caused them to lose this game. Now it's quite a few reasons why they were saying this was done, but the main reason was that so they can get a higher draft seed. And what did that do? That made probably the biggest sports story all week long, and it was about a team that's no longer playing, because what did the coach do? He sent mixed signals. He said he was playing to win the game, and when it was time to win the game, he pulled the best player, and that disrupted his whole team, and now that's been the biggest story, and everybody calling for his job because he's not transparent. Nobody knows where he stands, and the people working directly under him is the ones that, you know, he probably hurt the most, because he's supposed to be their leader. So that was not a real transparent move, and regardless of what he says, to say to them about why he did that is not going to take away from the actual thing that what actually happened and his direct actions. So you got to be transparent with people and let people know where you stand. So accountability, hold yourself accountable, and don't make excuses. You know, when you hold yourself accountable, it builds trust. When you hold yourself accountable, it builds character. And when you hold yourself accountable, you become a very transparent person.